Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Awakened Mother Show podcast. I am your hostess, Reverend Wendy Silvers, and I'm so glad that you have chosen to be with us today. The Awakened Mother Show is a show that is dedicated to exploring human potential, spirituality, new visions, all kinds of topics that maybe might be a little edgy and people might avoid, but here we don't. I invite on spiritual teachers, visionaries, leaders, scientists, people that are willing to challenge the status quo, just for a matter of exploration and for understanding what is right for each and every person. And of course, we honor the mother-child relationship. We earn and own the aspect of the mystical aspects of motherhood and parenthood. So sit back and listen, because I've got some great guests for you this morning. I have Sarah and Ryland Engelhart, who are from the Sovereignty Ranch. You'll hear about that. They are friends of mine from the Agape International Spiritual Center that was founded and by Michael Bernard Beckwith. We share a lot of common interests, and they are here to talk to you about Big Foolish Project and We Be Love, as well as an event that's happening at the Sovereignty Ranch. So I'm going to bring them on. Help me give them a warm welcome. So hello there, you two.
Thanks for having us, Wendy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great opening. Thank you,
That was
Wendy.
beautiful.
That was.
Thank you. Oh, thank
You're
you.
a trained professional minister.
Well, I have to tell you something that's really quite ironic about that. At the end of like August 2011, I received this, like literally a vision to create a march called Million Mamas March in Washington, D.C. And I remember that I did all the planning, and then we ended up doing a broadcast. And so I was, and Michael Beckwith was part of it, because he was actually on one of the council members. And so when I was interviewing all these people at this event, the cameraman, when I got done doing it, this man's like, "Have you been doing this like for a while?" And I was like, "Never. This was my very first time." He's like, you just are so comfortable. And it really wasn't about the camera. It was about the people. I really am so fascinated and curious about people, what moves them, what motivates them, why they say, think, and do what they do, and how we can all come together and create a better world. So I know you two are actively engaged in that pursuit. You're living it. Will you share a little bit about the Sovereignty Ranch and the project that you're working on and the event coming up?
Beautiful. You want to start?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's see. So we lived in California for the last
My whole
her
life.
her whole life. most of my life, at least more than half of my life, we were in the service, food, restaurant, hospitality business. We had restaurants called Cafe Gratitude and Gracias, Madre. Sarah was working as a pastry chef and a baker, and I was managing. And really what that was about serving people healthy food with a spirit and an attitude of gratitude. And that really was, it was a family business started by my father and stepmother, really inside of this vision of how do we make a difference, and knowing that food is the fuel, the medicine of life, of the physical nourishment of our bodies, wanting to nourish people with really, really healthy whole foods. But knowing that it's not by bread alone, it's also, we're fed by the spirit, by the energy of life. And, what is that attitude? What is that spirit? And really, actually, you can see this game right here behind us is the sort of original blueprint of what was called the Abounding River board game, which was the template or the blueprint of Cafe Gratitude. Really, Cafe Gratitude, for those that don't know, it had this...
It started off as a gaming parlor.
A transformational
a
gaming...
raw food,
a raw food transformational gaming parlor where the ministry was to invite people in with the food, but really what we were wanting to imbue and inspire was this opportunity and this remembrance that our life is a picture of our mind, and what we put our thoughts, speech, beliefs, actions, and attitudes into creates our experience of life. And this is very agape-esque, and so gratitude is, this essential, universal remembrance of bringing the invisible visible, bringing our attention to, as the Sufis said, abundance can be simply had by consciously receiving what has already been given. So gratitude, Cafe Gratitude, was about reminding people all that there is to be grateful for in this moment. And so we did that for almost 20 years, served millions of meals through California, Northern California into Southern California. And that's where we interacted with Agape and met Reverend Michael.
That's where you and I met, through Cafe Gratitude. We got married 15 years ago, and we partnered up about 17 years ago. Yeah. Practicing these tool sets together in our relationship.
Love that.
And so that was, we're now here in Texas. Again, you said nothing is off the table as far as communicating. We were all in on veganism. We were all in on sort of, I would say, socialist ideals. We were all in on, Cafe Gratitude was a big foolish project, an experiment of
very liberal, very progressive. Yeah.
We tried to have everybody be paid all the same and share equal tips. And
these are all beautiful sentiments, and there's beauty in all of that too.
And we experienced, not only with our own in our own ecosystem of Cafe Gratitude, some of those ideals sort of failing on the cutting room floor of reality, but we also, in California, as very, very sort of dedicated liberals, during COVID, had a big awakening, and felt like, wow, what is going on here?
Between the censorship and the differing with the lockdowns and all that, we just found ourselves feeling like strangers in a strange land a bit. Which I know a lot of people can relate to, and there are others who maybe don't relate to, that really resonated with some of the policies from California at that time.
Yeah.
But it kind of, it opened up our eyes and had us start to expose ourselves to different information. We found ourselves really feeling moved by a lot of the principles and values of the conservative platform, and just family values mostly, and then health. And we met Bobby, RFK Jr. At a dinner at Jane Fonda's house that Ryland was invited to. We went there, and
name dropping Hollywood.
Drop away.
But we got to face. We had just had our first son, Rumi, and we were just,
I love that name.
It's a great name, Rumi Forrest. And so I was in the vaccine conversation, researching, educating myself on the topic. And there was a bill up in California, SB 277, SB 276, which was going to remove the ability for medical exemptions to be utilized. And we were really worried about that passing, because it narrows it down so that even if a child had a vaccine reaction to a single vaccine, they couldn't get an exemption that would protect them from being vaccinated from other vaccines. They would have to get an exemption for each one and prove all this medical history. It really felt like a witch hunt, and against doctors and against people who wanted to who were a little more cautious about it. And I have some family members who had some reactions to vaccines too, so I was a little more cautionary. And then we started speaking with RFK. I started volunteering with his nonprofit, Children's Health Defense, with the hopes of helping them to get the message out. As I began to research and learn more about what was going on in the background of the federal, the FDA and HHS and all these places that we count on to really protect us. I started to learn more about how those places have been corrupted, unfortunately, mostly through, pharmaceutical influence, money making. It just opened our eyes. And then COVID happened. And this is the long answer to your question about where we got started. We're here in Texas. We're in Texas Hill Country. We never could have imagined, after being, in Venice Beach, kind of hippies, going to Agape, very natural minded, very spiritual individuals. And then we find ourselves here.
Yeah, leading the Southern California vegan plant-based movement. And now we live and work and run a agro hospitality on a cattle ranch, livestock ranch.
And it's beautiful. We've got tiny house village, we've got shipping container house, we've got glamping tents, and we've really set up a restaurant. Ryland's sister and her husband are restaurateurs, and they've really led this project here, Sovereignty Ranch, where we're serving the community here and bringing everyone into this big love project. We're able to actually do the things that we wanted to do in California without so much restriction out here, and we're finding a lot of like minds and like hearts too. So it's a really interesting, amazing time to be in Texas.
It is. So covering all of it, it's amazing. I was having a conversation last night with a dear friend of mine, and we were talking about Bobby. And I said, I'm just really curious how, when he did all of his environmental work, he was a hero, lauded, magazine covers. And then when he started to question and explore and research the behemoth vaccine industry, all of a sudden he went from hero to zero in the mainstream. How is that? Same man, same brilliance, same curiosity. One would think, with critical thinking, one would think, well, he must be onto something, like a lot of us, right? There's something to question. One of the things that I know, like in my work with families, I always encourage people, rather than go to judgment, get curious. Like, move to curiosity, move to wonder. I'm wondering, I'm curious. One would imagine that, like yourselves, you get curious. You're like, what's happening? We need to have a different experience. And you go from being, in Venice, hip, slick, cool, the whole hips, that whole vibe, which is beautiful, beautiful. And now you're here because you followed. I really believe that when a vision comes to you, a vision is alive. When you make a commitment with We Be Love, is it We Love, We Be Love?
We have a website called We Be Love, and we have a podcast called the Be Love Podcast.
Thank you. Years ago, I did something called Be Love.
And we're
offering a relationship workshop called Kindred Spirit.
Beautiful.
Which is a book and a body of work that was developed over 25, 30 years by my family and was philosophically infused into the ethos of Cafe Gratitude as a model of business called Sacred Commerce. Again, we had a version of a previous version that was called The New View of Love. Is another, which me and my buddy John Morrow taught a workshop for 50 or 60 people at Agape many, many years ago. So it really is a philosophical, spiritual view of life and of business and of relationship.
It just puts love at the center of all we do.
Which is that's all there is. I mean, that's all there is. But then there's what I was starting to say before, is that when you receive a vision, like you did with Big Foolish Project and Kindred Spirit and We Be Love and Big Love, and when you receive a vision, it's alive. It's not static. It's not like, here's the vision and I'm going to hold on to that vision. You breathe life into it. So here's this Kindred Spirit Workshop that you did years ago at Agape. Here's Cafe Gratitude with that. You know, what's so wonderful is when you order a meal, you get a message,
An affirmation.
an
You are
affirmation.
beautiful. You are amazing.
Right.
You are
You are
joyful.
whole.
You are
Right.
Yeah.
So you're passing on this, you know, how can I make a difference? How can I create a more beautiful world? And so here you are, you know, with this desire inside of you, percolating inside of you, both of you together, coming together with a united vision to move forward in through you. You know, you're the instruments, the divine pours itself into and through. And here you are in Texas. Here you are with this Sovereignty Ranch with Molly and her husband, and you're doing this work. You're carrying this vision forward.
Yes.
I always say that there's like a theme. If you look back over your life, you said yes. You said yes to each other. You said yes to your children. And you said yes to your vision to help create a more beautiful world. And you're doing it. So you have an event that is happening on May 8th, which sounds phenomenal. Sounds so evolutionary and revolutionary.
It's our third time doing Confluence here on Sovereignty Ranch in beautiful Texas Hill Country, and it's for all ages. Families bring kids, and there's activities there's speakers, workshops in the realms of health, consciousness, sovereignty, so many things, movement,
food,
consciousness.
Permaculture, regenerative
and really
agriculture.
cutting edge thinkers, and
Yes.
people are not afraid to question the status quo. I'd say that
Yes.
that is the
People
the
talking
common
about
thread
terrain
is
theory versus
just like following their hearts,
germ theory. Yeah,
following their hearts and being willing to make the leap, just following their heart, not sure where it's going to lead, but very heart-centered.
Wendy, you know Veda Austin's work?
I'm not sure that I do.
She's somebody
around the consciousness of water.
She
Right.
sort of taken up Dr. Emoto's work of
Yes.
images in water and gone to the 10x level, and kind of is making an invitation that water is a divine presence that's observing itself, observing reality through water. And when we interact with water and then freeze it, we can actually see how there is this consciousness in relationship to reality of water. And it's pretty remarkable. So yeah, Veda Austin is coming and is one of the speakers. Yeah, it's
Alex Zek will be there. So many others.
Yeah.
It
sounds.
Yeah. So
we'd love to invite you to come with us. I don't know. We still have a few tickets left. We've sold quite a few. It's going to be a big event, but there's lots of camping, and you're going to be on the ranch, sleeping under the stars, eating at our farm to table restaurant here. So food grown, harvested right off the ranch. There's just the most nutrient dense, good vibes all around. So
I think one of the things that's most unique about it is it's multi-generational. There's grandparents, parents, children, including our multi-generation, and it's hosted on the place that we live, so
which is our beautiful 200-acre family farm and ranch.
So it really is an embodiment of a lot of the ideals and aspirations that many of us have, and we're willing to share that. By no means is this some utopia or that it's perfect. We're foibling over our own challenges, but we're doing the work and we're living the life. And we're bringing people in to share and experience and see it firsthand, such that they can imagine themselves in it because they are in it, and then they can adopt and receive and become carriers of those seeds that they received here. And so it's really, really extraordinary. It is a big Be Love fest, and it's 4 days, and the food is amazing, music is amazing, and we're inviting everyone in.
Sounds absolutely. I remember when we spoke, Ryland, months ago. You mentioned this to me, and it's someone's coming in with
Our little
something to show you.
the request of no interruptions during a podcast, but it did not go over so well.
That's all right.
And then we'll come
This
out
is
and
Rumi.
we'll-
I need help with something first.
You need to put this pillowcase on.
Hi, Rumi.
Spider-Man pillowcase needs to.
Very important.
Little
There
intermissions.
are priorities.
Yeah.
There are priorities, that's one of the things that I love about the work that I do, is that I believe in the seventh generation principle. And so what I'm about to say or do going to affect the 7 generations that are coming in, and being aware of all of the children that are here, the ones that are on the horizon. And so I have no problem when kids are part of the equation, because who are we doing this for? Are we doing this for our ego, or are we doing this for our essence? Are we doing this to pass on this love? Love is at the center. And one of the greatest ways that you experience love is through children and through parenting. One of the greatest transformational paths that could possibly exist is a partnership and then parenting, right? So, grateful that Rumi blessed us with his presence. It's really a joy. So I'll talk to my husband, who's a musician and an actor, and he grew up camping. He actually grew up here in Los Angeles, and his family camped all the time. I did not. I grew up in New York and New Jersey, and my daughter and my husband love camping, and I love the idea of it.
Glamping. You could try glamping.
I love being on the earth. Yeah, I love what you're doing. I remember when so much was happening. It's been happening for the past 10 years. And I was thinking about moving, and I kept feeling a pull to Texas, because of, in my view, it's like this wide open land. I think of it as wide open consciousness. And so many people that I'm sure we have in common have moved to Texas. And I love that there are visionaries. Like there's a vision, there's a vision for something beyond what is, because clearly what has been is not really serving everyone, or we wouldn't be in this place. Like nothing happens by accident. So everything that's happening in this moment is part of the evolutionary impulse towards something more expansive, greater. So what you're doing with Big Foolish Project, Be Love, and Sovereignty Ranch, and doing the Kindred Spirit Workshop, which I want to talk a little bit of love. I want to talk a little bit of love, yes. But I'm going to back up here. Before I had my daughter, and I did a home birth, it was 32 hours of labor, I remember gazing at my husband, and I fell so in love with him, and I just felt like this love just completely and the same when I was, pregnant, with feeling this love, but I knew that things were going to change, because when you become a mom, I don't know how it is necessarily for the dad, but life changes. There's something within you that is born, that was already there, but there's something that is birthed.
With the papas too.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
For a long time, I felt that, Wendy, right after becoming a mother, the archetype of the mother suddenly is accessible in a way that it wasn't before, in my experience. And you can be a mother in a lot of different ways, but giving birth to a child is a very initiative experience. And like you said, it brings forward these new qualities of being become accessible. And when it started happening to me, I wondered if Ryland was having a similar, because it's so palpable and it's so necessary for the survival of our species. Mothers, the mother archetype has to come in order to keep little ones flourishing.
Yeah.
So do you want to speak on that for your personal experience for a moment as a father, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I would just
The
say
birth of the Father?
the birth
Yeah.
of the Father, the initiation of the Father. I would just say it's the greatest,
He's a really good dad, too.
the
I,
great,
I, I
the
saw that
greatest.
you're playing with one of your kids on the Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, the greatest joy is to be a presence of love and contribute, and to be able to have little vessels
Yeah.
um, that come from you and that will be a continuation of your life, to be able to pour love into them,
Mm.
uh, knowing that cascade of transmission, transference. Yeah, there's this spiritual impulse at the purest essence of love, which is all I want is this experience of love to be felt
Mm-hmm.
by others. This transference of the awakening of this love, and to be able to have little beings that are just there to be the recipient and the sponge of that love presence. And of course, it's hard. It's surprising how much they can get under my skin, how much they can trigger me. I mean, I've been known as like the be love guy. I have be love tattoos and be love culture around cafe gratitude, and it's amazing. They can trigger anger and frustration
Yeah.
and even rage. Like, wow.
Yeah.
But, in the same way that relationship is this mirror to have us see ourselves and to sort of open up and point and push at certain aspects, and will we negate it, and will we blame, and will we be receptive enough and curious, to use your word from earlier, enough to see, well, why am I so triggered, why am I so angered by that,
Yes.
what's underneath that stone, uh, and being willing to learn through that threshold of challenge and confrontation, uh, and really, and that this really brings us into the context of the relationship work and the spiritual tools and philosophical tools of relationship that we've been so inspired to share and
Mm.
give away to others, is this idea that love is an indwelling presence. And
Mm-hmm.
we oftentimes, and even when I say we, myself, as someone who knows that spiritual principle so well, and yet still will be usurped by the ego perception of, you did that, you made me angry, I'm angry because of what you did.
It's interesting that you talk about this, Ryland, because in my experience as the observer outside, he's so infrequent to go to anger externally. He's really very well practiced in managing feelings of anger and impatience inside before it becomes an external expression. And it's one of the things I love the most and deeply appreciate in our relationship, because I can be a little fiery, a little, uh, and he really helps to ground me in that way and inspires
Mm.
me to do the work inside to put out the fire of anger or impatience before it
Transmute it.
to transmute it with
Yeah.
love, come back to love instead of letting it out.
That's
All
wonderful.
the consequences that come with that when we do
Hmm.
spill it out on our family members, usually, or our
Yeah.
close
The
people.
closest. Absolutely. That's beautiful. So when is your next Kindred Spirit event, workshop?
We've
And
been offering some free virtual introductions to Kindred Spirit, and we will offer another one. You can check it out on our website, webelove.com, for upcoming virtual dates. And
okay.
then we're doing the in-person introduction to Kindred Spirit workshop at Confluence this May.
Ooh, very cool.
I taught one at another event we hosted here at Sovereignty
That
Ranch
would be another event for
Divine and
Wendy.
Dangerous. Divine and Dangerous was an amazing all women's retreat that we put on here, and we plan to do another in the fall. So I'll keep you updated if it's something you're interested in, where we have yoga and tea ceremony and sound bowls on the water, and we have personal development work and really beautiful bonding kind of sisterhood components, but also we've got jujitsu, and we've got gun safety training, and we've got first aid with herbalism, and it's the divine and the dangerous. As women, we can hold both. We don't have to just think that we can't still be strong and fierce without our divinity there. So
Oh, I love everything you're saying. And it's so beautiful to me to see the both of you together, because I really believe that for us to have healing in our world, it's got to be the both and. We were talking before, and there's no sides in God, in goddess. You need the both. It's like, there's God as the masculine and the goddess is the feminine, and it's all together. It's not, that's why it's mother, father, God. It's not, I know some people really are attached to the father part. And I understand that, because conscious masculine, who doesn't want that divine masculine, that strength, that embraces and goes forward and allows the feminine to be held so the feminine can do her work that she's here to do. But it's both. It's like the initiation of the mother and the father that expands when you have this little being in front of you that either came to you or came through you, so it's that honoring. Well,
yeah, it's interesting just in listening to you share. And again, it's somewhat obvious, but it's funny how certain things just become more present and awakened in certain moments. But the idea, I've been saying Mother, Father, God, as it's going to Agape and East Bay Church of Religious Science, and over the years, and all different kinds of spiritual exploration. And then being here in Texas, where it's definitely more conservative and Christian, and it's more formatted to God is he. But it's interesting, just again inside of creation, and anything that we see in this reality that is created comes through the mother father connection, masculine feminine pieces that then lead to the creation of new life. So it's just an interesting thing to be affirmed in. And actually, when we go to bed at night, our son Rumi,
we say our prayers as a family before bed every night, and it's one of the most magnificent practices. I would highly recommend it. Just the things that come out of everyone's heart in before bed is just so inspiring. Sometimes it's a little more light on the surface, and sometimes there's these deep, profound words that come forward. It's so beautiful.
What I'm really struck by, for me, life is about connection, and family is about connection. And a child that grows up in a home where they feel connected to themselves, to their parents, thrives in a way that a child that hasn't, not that all kids can't thrive, but there's such a different anchoring when you have that in your family. So that's just beautiful. Wow. I love that. So we are going to come this conversation, because I know we're going to have more. We're going to bring this one to a close. Will you please let people know how they can contact you and how they can attend Confluence?
Absolutely. One other thing, one public service announcement. We didn't talk about it, but a big part of my life and the ministry of my heart is about awakening regeneration and regenerative agriculture as a process of how beings can work with nature so that life on earth can heal, thrive, and grow. And so I've produced a couple films, Kiss the Ground.
Yes.
Common Ground being the sequel, and Common Ground is coming out on Earth Day, April 22nd. And there's going to be a global watch party. We're encouraging people to gather and watch that film on Amazon Prime and really be inspired that there is a vision of healing, a vision of hope. And it's through this idea that human beings become this generation that realizes that we can be part of the regeneration, that we're not a parasite, we're not a plague, we're not a cancer on the planet. We're actually the great keystone species. And if we have a right knowledge and right relationship and right action in relationship to nature, nature can actually thrive more abundantly, more prolifically under our care and our stewardship. And that is a big idea that is on my heart to awaken and have us as humanity remember. And the films are a way to give that picture and that vision in well-articulated ways that we can heal our bodies and that we can heal our planet through regenerative agriculture. And everyone has a role to play in that process.
Amen.
And you can work, if you're interested in working with Ryland, you can head over to Big Foolish Project, where he's offers some consulting time.
Beautiful.
And to find tickets for Confluence, you can go to sovereigntyranch.com, and we've got information there on our events page for all our future events, including Confluence, as well as a couple other gems that are coming up soon. The Divine and Dangerous I mentioned, and then another one called Food is Medicine.
Beautiful. Thank you both so much for all that you're doing to contribute to making a difference in this world. Thank you. I'm so honored to be in your company, and I look forward to speaking with you soon and seeing you soon. So thank you,
Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you
for bringing forward the message of love in so many ways and touching so many people's hearts through that present.
Thank you. Many blessings to you. Okay, everybody. So share this episode with everyone you know, and we will see you soon. Peace and richest blessings.